Welcome to Chemistry Podcast. Today we're going to learn about dimensional analysis, which is a very key item when you're doing molar conversions. As you notice, we've written down the steps on the right-hand side. Um, One being write out all the conversion factors you need to solve the problem. If it's there for you and you've written it down, it's much easier to refer to those conversion factors as you're writing down the grid. Um, and as it says in the second step, you set up a grid. Um, so much easier if you can write the grid out. You can see how the numbers cancel out, how the numbers are multiplied, they're divided, how the units cancel out. But always start with the value you're given in the problem. If you look at the problem we're given, 3.0 million minutes is how you're going to start this grid. All right. And then you need to eliminate all unwanted units using conversion factors that you've written down for yourself as a reminder. The only one left should be the one the question asks for. And then once you've written down all your conversion factors, you've written down your grid, you've canceled all the units you need to cancel out, you've come up with the final unit you're looking for, you just need to solve the problem. All right. So the problem says how many years are in 3.0 million minutes. That's key because 3.0 million minutes says that we need to come up with two sig figs in our final answer. But before we do that, set up the grid, figure out how. Let's set up our conversion factors. And these should be common knowledge to all of you. You've probably used these throughout your life lots and lots of times. We're going to need to know that there are 60 minutes in an hour. There are 24 hours in a day. There are 365 days in 1 year. All right. And I think that's all we need for our conversion factors. All right. So if you go, now that we've set up all our conversion factors, you go back to step 2. It says set up a grid. All right. And the grid we need to set up should start with the number that you know in the problem, 3.0 million minutes. So now we're going to write out the grid starting with 300 million minutes. Okay. Now, if we observe what we've written down in our conversion factors, one of the three is going to help us get to cancel out the minutes. And if you look at this one right here, that one's definitely going to help us out in converting from minutes to hours. All right. And it looks like we want the minutes on the bottom. All right. So if we do that, we're going to write 60 minutes on the bottom. And we're going to put 1 hour on the top. All right. And if you notice, that cancels out minutes. And now we've gone from minutes to hours. All right. Now, if we look at our last two conversion factors, this one's going to be very useful. Where we've got 24 hours in 1 day. Because it looks like we can go from hours to days. All right. If we write out that conversion in our grid, this is going to be, we're going to put 24 hours on the bottom, because there's 24 hours in a day. And that should cancel out. We've got hours on the top of the fraction and hours on the bottom of the fraction. So now we've gotten to days. All right. And lo and behold, if we look at our last conversion, that's going to be very useful because we can go from days to years now. And in the problem, if you notice, that's what we're trying to solve for. All right. So if we write out our last conversion factor in our grid that we painstakingly have written out here. It looks like a lot of steps, but if you write things out and you can actually see it for yourself, it's much easier just plugging numbers into the calculator. Um, so our last conversion would be 365 days on the bottom because we have days on the top. And we're going to put our 1 year on the top of the fraction. All right, and if we cancel out days, the units we're left with, we've eliminated all the unwanted units, which were minutes, hours, and days, and we're left with the one we're looking for in the question, which is years. All right, now if we solve this problem, okay, we're going to take 300 million, divide it by 60. That's going to be our first step. And then we're going to divide that number by 24 because that's the a number on the bottom as well of our fraction. And then finally, we're going to divide by 365 because that's another number on the bottom of the fraction. Right? And if we write out our final answer, and again, we have to go back to our original number to figure out how many sig figs we want in our final answer, where it looks like we need 2 sig figs. Because 3.0 is 2 significant figures. So our final answer, once we do all the math, is going to be 5.7 years. That was a lot of work. But again, if you get used to writing out these grids, you can see how the units cancel out. And you can go from one conversion factor to the next. And then you can always see how the units cancel out. And eventually you end up with all the unwanted units canceling out. And then you're left with your final units to the appropriate number of sig figs. All right. We'll talk to you later. Bye.